Quickly, a little lesson on boats. Okay, we got different measurements. We have length, we have beam, which is going to be the width of the boat, and that's at the widest part. And then we have height, and we have draft. Draft is going to be the depth. You see, there's a keel on this sailboat. I've seen keels go down 8 feet. Okay, or more for bigger boats. So keep in mind that's why water depths are going to be very important. All right. So accessibility, this is probably the most important thing. And this is going to be one of our final things we're going to talk about. All right. Will the buyer's boat be able to access and fit at the dock? That is so important. Okay. So there are what we call setbacks. Okay. Setbacks is the distance between, the side setback we're talking about now, the distance between the property line and where you can build a structure on the property. We use the same setback when determining what size boat can fit at a property. Just because you have 80 feet of water frontage does not mean you can have an 80-foot boat. It means you can probably have maybe a 70-foot boat, in some neighborhoods only a 60-foot boat. So you need to understand how that works, and we'll go into detail on that next slide. And then there's waterway widths. Okay, every waterway depends on the municipality. I'm only going to talk about Fort Lauderdale today, but Fort Lauderdale, you can go out 30% into the canal, okay, or into the waterway. And that includes your dock, and it includes your boat. So you have to keep that in mind. I have a visual that will demonstrate this. And then the depth, we saw that sailboat image. Okay, you saw how deep that keel goes. All right, it's important to know the depths in your canals. The best way to figure that out is have the owner or the new buyer take their boat to the location, make sure they can get there. It may be deep enough at the dock, but maybe there's a lower point in the canal that they can't get by. Okay, it doesn't do them any good if they can fit at the dock, but they can't even get there. So you need to understand, and sometimes it's worth it to pay someone to go and sound the entire canal. If depth is a concern, make sure they're going to be able to get their boat back there. Bridge height. Okay, we talked about fixed bridges. All right, get that Dolph's map and you'll understand where these are. But they're measured at the lowest point over mean high water. That means high tide. Now, some buyers will say, "Oh, it's okay. I'll just go in and out at low tide." That's ridiculous. All right, you do not want to be restricted to your boat usage based on the tides. So I highly recommend that you tell your buyers, no, I don't think you should do that. And people still do it. I actually have a friend that does that. He only uses his boat at low tide. Okay, that's a big restriction. And then understand your draw and your swing bridges. Drawbridges have height restrictions too. So if you don't like wading, if you have a sailboat or a big sport fish with a tuna tower and you don't like wading on bridges, keep that in mind too. You need to know the heights of those drawbridges when they are not open. And then tides. You understand the tides, because the tides are going to affect different waterfront areas and what's happening with currents, depths at certain times, things like that. And there are apps you can buy. I have an app on your iPhone. It's just called Tide app. It's free and it's very accurate and shows you the local tide tables. Okay, so let's take a look at an example, okay, of the setbacks and how we're going to use our waterway. All right, this is a 90-foot canal. Okay, so that's a 90-foot width. All right, this property I think was 85 or 90 feet wide, but this is Fort Lauderdale RS8 zoning, okay, which is residential zoning. And in RS8, most of the properties, and I say most, and you have to always do your research. Again, this is in my research class, I teach this. Make sure you're looking at the code yourself. But most of the lots in RS8 are 5 feet. That means, so if you see the property line there, which is the yellow line on the right, and then the red line next to it, that's your setback. That's the distance between the property line and where you can build a structure. That's how close you can build a structure on your property to the property line. That also means that your boat cannot encroach into that setback. So that boat, as you can see, the bow of that boat, all right, and they have an anchor on the bow there, that the anchors count. Anchors count, swim platforms count, engines, all right? I don't care if your boat has the number 35 in it, because a lot of boats include the length in the name of the boat. The actual length of your boat, including your anchor and your engines, can be a lot more. And when that zoning guy comes out to take a look at a problem you may have, they don't care what the name of your boat is. They're going to measure, and any part of your boat that's sticking into that setback is going to be in violation. Okay, widths, 40% along the middle. That is the navigable area that you need to leave in Fort Lauderdale for boats to come and go in that canal. All right. That means you get 30% on either side. In this case, with the 90-foot canal, you can go out 27 feet, and that includes the dock. So on this house, you can see it has a really wide dock. That's like a 10-foot wide dock, and that's a very beamy boat. Okay, so you probably have 10 feet. You've got, another maybe 15-foot beam on there. And then you've got, a couple feet, maybe 1 or 2 feet between the dock and the boat. As you can see, they're right on the line. All right. Now the boat across the canal is right on the line too. Why? Because it's got mooring whips and it's pushing it out there. So those are two boats that aren't very big that are actually very close to being in violation of Fort Lauderdale code. All right. So I hope that visual gave you a good idea of how that works, but this is exactly what you need to do with your buyer before you sell them a waterfront single family home.